The sons of Jacob in the land of Canaan had become jealous of Joseph and sought to kill him, but then decided to sell him as a slave to Egypt. 20 years later, Joseph was governor of Egypt, and there was a great famine in the land sent by God, and Joseph's brothers went to find food in Egypt. Joseph gave them a bit of a hard time, testing them to see whether they were still violent and angry against him. What had they done concerning his youngest brother Benjamin, since Benjamin he knew would have become the new favourite of his father? And the brothers this time defended Benjamin. Judah was prepared to become a slave himself, rather than allow Benjamin to become a slave when Benjamin was framed and convicted of theft. And so Joseph has revealed himself to his brothers, and Pharaoh has invited the family to come and live in Egypt. Jacob was incredulous that Joseph was still alive, but when he saw the evidence that Joseph sent back, he accepted the fact, and God confirmed that this was his will, that Jacob and his family should move to Egypt, and that in time God would take them back to the land of Canaan. And so they've come, and we continue our reading in Genesis chapter 47. Joseph went and told Pharaoh and said, "My father and my brothers, their flocks and their herds, and all their possessions, have come from the land of Canaan, and indeed they are in the land of Goshen." And he took 5 men from among his brothers and presented them to Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh said to his brothers, "What is your occupation?" And they said to Pharaoh, "Your servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers." And they said to Pharaoh, "We have come to sojourn in the land, because your servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. Now therefore, please, let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen." Then Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, "Your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you. Have your father and brothers dwell in the best of the land. Let them dwell in the land of Goshen. And if you know any competent men among them, then make them chief herdsmen over my livestock." Then Joseph brought in his father Jacob, and set him before Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Jacob, "How old are you?" And Jacob said to Pharaoh, "The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage." So Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. Joseph situated his father and his brothers and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. Then Joseph provided his father, his brothers, and all his father's household with bread, according to the number of their families. Now there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very severe, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan languished because of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, for the grain which they bought, and Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. So when the money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, "Give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the money has failed." Then Joseph said, "Give your livestock, and I will give you bread for your livestock, if the money is gone." So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for the horses, the flocks, the cattle of the herds, and for the donkeys. Thus he fed them with bread in exchange for all their livestock that year. When that year had ended, they came to him the next year and said to him, "We will not hide from my lord that our money is gone. My lord also has our herds of livestock. There is nothing left in the sight of my Lord but our bodies and our lands. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants of Pharaoh. Give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land may not be desolate. Then Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for every man of the Egyptians sold his field, because the famine was severe upon them. So the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he moved them into the cities, from one end of the borders of Egypt to the other end. Only the land of the priests he did not buy, for the priests had rations allotted to them by Pharaoh, and they ate their rations which Pharaoh gave them. Therefore they did not sell their lands. Then Joseph said to the people, Indeed, I have bought you and your land this day for Pharaoh. Look, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the harvest that you shall give 1/5 to Pharaoh. 4/5 shall be your own, as seed for the field and for your food, for those of your households, and as food for your little ones. So they said, You've saved our lives. Let us find favour in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt to this day, that Pharaoh should have 1/5, except for the land of the priests only, which did not become Pharaoh's. So Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions there, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. My name's Arthur. Thank you for joining me as we've read from Genesis 47. The settlement of the children of Jacob, the children of Israel, in the land of Egypt, and how Joseph managed the affairs of the nation as the people came to him to buy the grain that he had stored up in the 7 years of plenty. So the first thing of interest is that at this time Joseph is 39. We conclude that because he was 30 when he became governor. There were 7 years of plenty, and it was the second year of the famine. So that makes him 39. When Jacob is presented to Pharaoh, Pharaoh inquires of his age. He's 130 years old, which means he was 91 when Joseph was born. Joseph was born in the 20th year of Jacob's sojourn in Haran. So he'd come to Haran when he was 71. So he was around 70 when he cheated his brother Esau and deceived his father Isaac. We sometimes think of the squabble between Esau and Jacob as occurring when they were young men. By this reckoning, that striving had gone on for many, many years between them. We've been told several times that the Egyptians did not like the Hebrews because they were shepherds. When Joseph had a meal, the Egyptians ate separately from him and from his brothers. And Joseph maintains this separation by identifying a very productive area, the land of Goshen, which was good grazing land, but was not well occupied by the Egyptians. So the Israelites could live in a separate part of the land and develop there as a people, rather than being mixed in with the people of Egypt and losing their identity. It is remarkable that over the 4,000 years since God called Abraham out of Ur, that his descendants have maintained their identity, and particularly the family of Isaac and the family of Jacob. So today, the Jews know who they are, descended from Jacob, and many of them know which particular tribe they belong to. So the Israelites have settled in the land with Pharaoh's blessing. Jacob and his immediate descendants total 70 people. Jacob provides for them during the famine, and so they do not become servants of Pharaoh. And the priests of Egypt are provided for by Pharaoh. But the rest of the people hand over their money, their possessions, their own selves to Pharaoh for bread.